The Chicago Bulls have some interesting foundational pieces on their team, but it only matters if you go out there and you find you a superstar. Question on the table today: should the Bulls be looking for a superstar this offseason? And could that guy's name be Zion Williamson? Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love to another edition of the Chicago Bulls Breeze. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love as always, man. Let's start off the video here, right? Because talking about this team, I think that there's some really interesting foundational pieces that the Chicago Bulls do have that I think could really make a difference for the team moving forward. But again, it only matters if you have superstar talent in the building. And there's a couple of ways that the Bulls could go about finding that. I think most of us want them to look through the draft, go out there and find you a young piece that fits in here, maybe add in a legitimate starting center who is the star kind of player that you are looking for. But an interesting topic that was brought up here, and this comes from the original topic is from a spot called Fadeaway World, More Than Sports. And listen, I'm not telling you that this is what's being reported. I'm not telling you that this is what is on the table for the Chicago Bulls. What I'm telling you is that this was interesting to me when it came down to the Bulls going out and acquiring a superstar level talent. What they talked about was the Chicago Bulls trading with the New Orleans Pelicans for a potential superstar piece in Zion Williamson. I know a lot of people are going to look at that and say, Pat, you always say best availability of Zion on the court enough for you to call him a superstar. I think he's one of those weird players where when he is on the court, yeah, you got to say he's a superstar because he can put up 40 in like 11 minutes. But I do agree that you have to have a ton of questions on the player that he is. But what happens with the trade does intrigue me a little bit in this scenario that they have laid out here. And I would be interested to see if this was something the Bulls actually could pull off, because it would more so be two sides saying, you know what, we're kind of done with this experiment, right? We're okay. We're ready to move on. Essentially what the trade is, Chicago Bulls receive Zion Williamson and Jeremiah Robinson Earl for Nikola Vucevic, Patrick Williams, a 2025 first-round pick. They're saying the Portland pick. So basically you're giving up a pick that you're never going to use anyway that's going to become a second-round pick. And then the 2027 first-round pick for the Chicago Bulls. And that does intrigue me when you talk about possibly giving that up, because what you're basically doing is you're clearing your books in one sense for, yes, one player to bring in Zion Williamson who would be on the books, but there's a ton of incentives in Zion's contract that would make it a little bit more favorable for the Chicago Bulls if they were to bring him in here versus the contracts of Nikola Vucevic and or of Patrick Williams, who I would assume both of those guys would end up getting moved. Maybe they hold on to P. Will down in New Orleans, but I would assume that most of those guys end up getting moved on from in the long run, right? But I think you have to have a conversation here about the chance you're taking. Is it worth the squeeze if you go out and you get a player like Zion for that kind of package? And to me, if you could work something out in that sense, I would be very interested in seeing what that could end up being. Now, Zion, again, has not been the pinnacle of health in his time in the NBA. He's only had 2 seasons in his entire career where he's played above 60%. He's been all-stars both of those years. And I'm sorry, I said 60%, over 60 games. He's been all-stars both of those years. But the problem is, right, there are 2 years where they were trying to be extremely careful. Both years, the New Orleans Pelicans did end up making the playoffs, but Zion Williamson was unable to go in the playoffs because he dealt with an injury. The difference in the situation that you're in right now, where I think this could be interesting for the Bulls, is that Zion Williamson now is in the best shape that we have ever seen him in. While, yes, he has played less games this season, only 23 games played this season, it seems more than not that, and Zion has almost said as much, right, that the Pelicans are the ones kind of pulling the strings on when he can play, when he can't play. They're trying to hold him out. They're trying to do the load management thing, which I think is going to be important in what he's able to do in the long run. But the main conversation, I think, for me is, if they're holding him out, how many games could he have played? How does that affect how many games we could have seen Zion Williamson in this season? He talked about not being able to play back-to-backs. He talked about not being able to be cleared, maybe to play if games were even too close together in the schedule, or if the travel was too much, right? There's all of these stipulations that New Orleans has put in place. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you after Ayo Dosunmu was just cleared medically to play and then got put on season-ending shoulder surgery here, that the Bulls medical staff is all that great. But I do wonder how much of this is Zion Williamson being held back by the New Orleans Pelicans and them basically saying, we're not going to risk you being put out there because we're trying to trade you. We can't have you hurt if we're trying to trade you. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. Do you think that Zion Williamson makes sense for the Chicago Bulls if he is a trade piece here? Do you think that he's somebody that the Bulls should be intrigued to look at, or is it the injury history alone puts you on the outs? Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. I think what makes this even more interesting to me is the fact that I'm not giving up my 2025 draft pick. That is the pick that I need to select to go out there and add to this team as well. So I can still go out there at 10, 9, 8, wherever the Bulls end up in this whole lottery scheme of all of this, and still be able to add a big to the team that may fit in perfectly with what the Bulls are trying to do. I may be able to go out there and add a wing. Can I add an Asa Newell? Can I add my guy is a Danny Wolf I would love to see on this team. Is there whoever that player is that you feel at the top of the draft, or even in that 10 spot that you feel comfortable with Chicago Bulls selecting there, still being able to add that piece and then go out and try and add a guaranteed star player. The injuries are always going to be a concern, and I think that it is something that you have to think heavily about if you're the Chicago Bulls. But where you're at right now, right, you kind of got to start taking swings. And the part that I do think would be interesting is, again, talking about the foundational pieces. I've already got Josh Giddey in place. Am I going to be able to re-sign him? You would believe so. Maybe I have to let somebody like Kobe White walk, or Ayo Dosunmu, one or the other. I would assume they probably would move on from Kobe White in that scenario. Or maybe you keep him on the team as a spark off of the bench, right? But I think having those foundational pieces already in place, to me, makes it so much easier to add guys in. And how the Bulls mindset has been, how the Bulls have been playing as of late, how they have it's kind of come down to a talent issue at the end of the day, not so much of a, hey, these guys just can't play basketball anymore. Now it's kind of like, listen, they're putting in the maximum amount of effort. They're trying to do everything that they can to put themselves in a position to win games. They just run out of steam at the end of a game because they don't have the talent on the field or on the court or throughout a game to be able to go out there and actually put teams away. Defensively, they're showing a heck of a lot better team. I think that Billy Donovan's schemes make a little bit more sense now, and I don't know if it's because all of a sudden the team is more receptive to it, or you kind of move the players out who the message was running thin on. Either way, I think that there is a conversation to be had about this. When it comes down to it, do I think that you should take a chance on Zion Williamson if it costs you 2 first-round picks that are your first-round picks, right? If it costs you 2 years of first-round picks, no, I think that would be stupid. I think it makes no sense for the Chicago Bulls to even entertain something like that. But when you talk about the first pick, a pick that is going to have some protections attached to it and has had protections attached to it for quite some time, doesn't seem like Portland's going to be turning the corner anytime soon. You'll also talk about a 2027 first-round pick. I'm giving up 1 year of a first-round pick, a player in Patrick Williams that we really don't believe in much anymore, and Nikola Vucevic, who's been ready to get out of here for quite some time. I think that makes it a little bit more intriguing. It makes it more worth it for the Chicago Bulls to go out there and have to circumvent some different things with the cap to make sure that all of the money works. You're able to keep people around. But I think with the foundation that you have, I would be very intrigued to see that. I would actually pull the trigger on a trade like this. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. Is this something that you think the Chicago Bulls should do? I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. As always, man, it's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. See Red Nation. Stand up. Peace.